The bustling terminal of Los Angeles International Airport buzzed with a chaotic energy. Flight announcements echoed overhead, blending with the chatter of travelers and the rolling of suitcase wheels across the polished floor. Anxiety hung in the air as passengers checked their watches and phones, nervously awaiting news about their delayed flights. Among them stood Sarah, a young mother with tired eyes and a furrowed brow. She glanced at her phone again. No updates. She had been juggling 2 jobs for months to provide for her 8-year-old son, Jake, and all she wanted was to be home for his school performance that night. The thought of disappointing him made her stomach churn. Suddenly, the airport's atmosphere shifted. A group of excited fans erupted into whispers and laughter, their eyes widening with anticipation. Sarah turned to see what had caught their attention. There, walking through the terminal with an air of calm confidence, was none other than Keanu Reeves. The Hollywood star moved effortlessly, seemingly unaffected by the chaos around him. The sight of him brought a smile to Sarah's face, momentarily distracting her from her worries. She had always admired Keanu, not just for his talent, but for the kindness he displayed in his public life. Watching him interact with fans as he made his way toward the lounge filled her with a sense of hope. Could this be a sign? She dared to dream that maybe today would take an unexpected turn for the better. Just then, an announcement crackled through the intercom. "Attention, passengers. We regret to inform you that Flight 237 to Seattle has been delayed indefinitely. We apologize for the inconvenience and appreciate your patience." A collective groan spread through the crowd. Sarah felt her heart sink again, the weight of disappointment pressing down on her. She couldn't bear the thought of missing Jake's performance. She took a deep breath, trying to quell the rising tide of anxiety. As she scanned the terminal, she saw that Keanu had stopped to take selfies with fans. Their faces lit up with joy, but Sarah felt a pang of envy. She wished she could find that same joy amid her worries. Just then, she overheard an airline attendant discussing the overbooked flight situation with another staff member. "We might have to start asking for volunteers to give up their seats," the attendant said, glancing at the growing crowd. "It's going to get messy." Sarah's heart raced at the thought. She couldn't allow herself to be one of those passengers left behind. Just as she was about to lose hope, Keanu stepped forward, his voice calm and clear. "I'll give up my first-class seat," he offered, catching everyone's attention. The terminal fell silent. People turned to look at him, disbelief mingled with admiration in their eyes. Sarah's jaw dropped. Did he really just say that? The act of generosity stunned everyone, and the crowd erupted into a mixture of applause and cheers. Keanu turned to the airline staff and continued, "I think it's important for those who need to get home to get there." His genuine smile radiated warmth, and for a moment, it felt like he was lighting up the entire terminal. Sarah felt a surge of emotion as she watched. This was more than just a celebrity doing a good deed. It was a reminder of the kindness that still existed in the world. It reignited the flicker of hope she desperately needed. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was a chance she could still make it home. As Keanu's selfless act unfolded, Sarah felt the stirrings of an unlikely connection forming in that crowded airport. Little did she know that this moment would be the beginning of a journey that would not only change her fate, but also intertwine the lives of everyone present in ways they could never have imagined. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? She thought, feeling the anticipation build as the scene around her began to transform. As the applause for Keanu Reeves began to fade, Sarah felt a mix of admiration and curiosity. She watched as he engaged with the airline staff, a beacon of calm amidst the chaos. But even as her heart swelled with hope, the weight of her own reality pressed down on her. Sarah had always been a fighter. Growing up in a small town, she learned early on the importance of resilience. Her mother had worked multiple jobs just to keep food on the table after her father left when Sarah was young. The lessons her mother imparted, hard work, determination, and the importance of family, shaped Sarah into the person she was today. However, life had thrown her curveballs that tested her strength. In her 20s, Sarah found herself a single mother when her high school sweetheart, the love of her life, walked out the door after Jake was born. The news shattered her dreams of a perfect family, leaving her with a bundle of joy and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. Juggling two part-time jobs, she poured her heart into providing for Jake, often sacrificing her own needs and aspirations for his well-being. Despite the struggle, Sarah found joy in her son's laughter and imagination. Jake was her world, smart, funny, and full of dreams. Every school play, soccer game, and art project mattered to her, a reminder that no matter how tough things got, they could still create beautiful memories together. But this evening was different. Missing his performance felt like a betrayal, and that fear gnawed at her. Meanwhile, across the terminal, Tom, an elderly veteran, sat quietly in a corner, watching the commotion unfold. His weathered face bore the marks of a life filled with stories, both heartwarming and heartbreaking. Tom had served in the military for over 20 years, witnessing things that left invisible scars. The camaraderie he once cherished in the Army had faded over the years, replaced by a sense of isolation that grew heavier with time. Though he was proud of his service, Tom had long struggled with the remnants of war, PTSD that manifested in silent battles within his mind. Nights were often restless, haunted by memories that replayed in vivid detail. The world outside felt overwhelming, and simple tasks became monumental challenges. But today was different. He had decided to take a flight to visit his daughter, hoping to reconnect with her after years of estrangement. As the boarding situation unfolded, Tom felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. He glanced at the crowd, then back at Keanu, whose selfless act had ignited a spark of hope in him as well. Maybe this would be the chance he needed to bridge the gap with his daughter. Back at the other end of the terminal, Sarah had just overheard the flight attendant mention that Keanu's act had saved Tom a spot on the flight. She felt a sense of relief wash over her, but she still needed to figure out her own situation. She had come this far. She couldn't give up now. As the two stories began to intertwine, each character faced their own crossroads. Sarah with her determination to be there for Jake, and Tom with his hope for reconciliation. In the midst of uncertainty, they both shared a yearning for connection, a desire to overcome the struggles that defined them. Sarah took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had always believed in the power of kindness, and Keanu's gesture was a reminder of that. It motivated her to reach out, to believe that something good could come from the chaos. With newfound determination, she decided to approach Tom, hoping to strike up a conversation. "Excuse me," she said, her voice a mix of nervousness and hope. "I saw what just happened. That was really kind of him, wasn't it?" Tom looked up, surprised by her sudden presence. A warm smile broke across his face, a rare moment of connection. "Yes, it was. It's not every day you see a celebrity do something so selfless." As they began to chat, their stories unfolded, two strangers bound by their struggles, hopes, and the serendipity of a delayed flight. Little did they know that this chance encounter would set them on a path to healing and redemption, intertwined by a shared moment of kindness that would change their lives forever. As Sarah and Tom exchanged stories, the atmosphere around them buzzed with excitement and anxiety. The airline staff continued to announce updates, but all Sarah could focus on was her newfound connection with Tom. His eyes, filled with wisdom and a hint of sadness, told a story of resilience that resonated deeply with her. "So, what brings you here today?" Sarah asked, trying to keep the conversation light, despite the weight of their circumstances. "I'm on my way to see my daughter," Tom replied, his voice steady but tinged with apprehension. "It's been years since we've really connected. I'm hoping this trip will change that." Sarah nodded, feeling the gravity of his words. "That's brave. I admire you for trying to reach out. I can only imagine how much that means to her." Tom smiled, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "Thank you. It's just, sometimes, the past can be a heavy burden to carry." Before Sarah could respond, a loud voice boomed through the terminal. "We need volunteers to give up their seats on Flight 237 to Seattle. Please approach the desk if you're willing to help." Panic surged within Sarah as she realized the announcement could affect her chance to get home. "I can't lose this flight," she said, her heart racing. "I need to be there for my son." Tom's expression turned serious. "I understand. Family is everything. But sometimes, life throws us unexpected challenges. It sounds like you have a lot on your plate. Just then, a commotion erupted nearby as frustrated passengers began arguing with airline staff. Sarah could hear snippets of angry voices demanding compensation for their delayed flights. The stress of the situation escalated quickly, creating an electric atmosphere of tension that seeped into her thoughts. As the chaos intensified, Sarah felt torn. She wanted to help, to contribute to the wave of goodwill that Keanu had started, but her priority remained clear. She had to get to Jake. Glancing at the boarding gate, she could see the line of passengers shifting, some looking hopeful while others appeared defeated. Meanwhile, Keanu, having just finished talking to the staff, walked toward them. He paused when he saw Tom and Sarah in conversation. "Are you okay?" he asked, genuine concern etched across his face. Sarah couldn't help but feel a rush of admiration. "We're trying to figure out our situations. I can't miss my flight. My son is waiting for me." "I understand," Keanu said, his voice soothing. "Sometimes we face tough choices. But remember, helping others can create unexpected opportunities for ourselves." His words struck a chord with Sarah, making her reconsider her priorities. But the mounting pressure around her made it hard to think clearly. As she glanced back at the airline desk, she saw the staff struggling to manage the growing crowd, tensions rising with each passing minute. In that moment, a young mother with a baby in her arms approached the desk, her voice trembling as she explained her situation. "I have to get home. My husband is sick, and our baby needs me," she pleaded. The desperation in her eyes was palpable, and it sent a wave of empathy through Sarah. "See?" Tom said quietly, nodding toward the mother. "There are others who need help too." As the airline staff tried to defuse the situation, Sarah felt a sense of conflict brewing within her. Should she step forward and give up her seat if it meant helping someone in need? The thought of leaving Jake waiting for her pulled at her heartstrings. Yet the image of the young mother's distress weighed heavily on her conscience. "Maybe I could take a later flight," she murmured, unsure. "But what if I still miss his performance?" "Sometimes the right choice isn't the easiest one," Tom said thoughtfully. "You might find that helping someone else can lead to unexpected blessings in your own life." Just as Sarah began to reconsider, another announcement broke through the tension. "We have reached full capacity for Flight 237. If you have a boarding pass, please proceed to the gate." The urgency in the air heightened. Sarah's heart raced as she looked at Tom and Keanu. "What do I do?" she asked, her voice trembling. Before anyone could respond, the airline staff called for one last volunteer. "We need one more person willing to give up their seat to allow a family to board." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This was it. This was her moment to decide. Stay and risk losing her chance to get home, or step forward and perhaps make a difference for someone else. The conflict raged within her as she weighed her options, each choice heavy with consequence. In that instant, she realized this wasn't just about a flight. It was about connection, compassion, and the choices that define us. As she looked at Tom, then at Keanu, she felt the weight of their gazes urging her to act. "Life is unpredictable," she whispered to herself, gathering her resolve. "But maybe today, I can be part of something bigger." The tension in the air felt almost palpable as Sarah stood at the crossroads of her decision. The chaos around her faded into the background, her focus narrowing to the choices ahead. She looked at Tom and Keanu, their encouraging expressions bolstering her confidence. "I'll do it," she said, surprising even herself with her resolve. "I'll give up my seat." Tom's eyes widened with surprise and admiration. "Are you sure? It's a brave decision." Sarah nodded, her heart racing. "I can't let that mother miss her chance to be with her family. I'll take a later flight." Keanu smiled warmly, his approval washing over her. "That's a beautiful choice. Sometimes the right path is the one that connects us with others." With newfound determination, Sarah approached the airline staff. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "I'd like to volunteer my seat." The attendant looked taken aback, but quickly regained composure. "Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Your kindness will help a family get home." As Sarah completed the process, she felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Leaving her original seat was bittersweet, but the realization that she had made a difference began to overshadow her fears. Once the arrangements were finalized, Sarah turned back to Tom and Keanu. "Thank you for your support. I hope it makes a difference." "Your heart is in the right place," Tom said, a hint of pride in his voice. "You've done something wonderful today." With her seat reassigned, Sarah watched as the young mother with the baby approached the desk, overwhelmed with gratitude. The moment their eyes met, Sarah felt a connection that transcended the moment. It was a reminder of the shared human experience that binds us all. As the crowd began to disperse, Keanu approached Sarah. "You showed real courage today. Helping others often brings unexpected rewards." "Thank you," she replied, her heart swelling. "I just hope I can still make it home in time for Jake's performance." "Things have a way of working out," Keanu said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Keep believing in that." As they spoke, Tom shuffled closer, clearly eager to share his own thoughts. "You've inspired me too. I've been so focused on my past that I nearly missed this chance with my daughter. It's time to reconnect." Sarah nodded, feeling a sense of solidarity with Tom. "We're all on this journey together, aren't we?" Before long, they all exchanged contact information, promising to keep in touch. Tom was especially eager to share updates about his daughter and how their reunion went. Keanu, too, offered his support, suggesting they meet again once they all returned home. "Life is unpredictable, but sometimes it leads us to the right people," Sarah said, feeling the truth of her words resonate deeply. As she made her way to the seating area for standby passengers, Sarah couldn't shake the sense of anticipation building inside her. The atmosphere had transformed from anxiety to a shared sense of hope, as if everyone was united by their collective stories. Hours passed, and the wait felt agonizing. Each announcement kept her on edge. "Flight to Seattle, boarding now." The words sent a thrill through her. Heart pounding, she approached the desk for the standby list, praying she would be cleared to board. With a final call, the attendant smiled and said, "You're all set. Enjoy your flight." The rush of relief and excitement was overwhelming. Sarah found her way to the gate, where she spotted Tom and Keanu waving her off. "Good luck," they both called out, their encouragement bolstering her spirits. As she boarded the plane, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her earlier fears lift. This flight was more than just a means to get home. It was a journey toward connection, healing, and newfound friendships. She settled into her seat, heart racing not just from the excitement of flying, but from the realization that life, in all its unpredictability, had led her to this moment. And as the plane took off, soaring into the sky, Sarah closed her eyes and allowed herself to dream of the reunion with Jake, the joy of being home, and the stories yet to unfold. Little did she know, the journey she had embarked upon would not only change her life, but also ripple through the lives of others in ways she couldn't yet imagine. As the plane climbed higher into the sky, Sarah gazed out of the window, watching the sprawling landscape below shrink into miniature hills and valleys. Her heart swelled with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Soon, she would be reunited with Jake, and that thought pushed her forward, igniting a warmth within her that had been dulled by uncertainty. But just as her heart began to settle, the seatbelt sign flickered off, and an unexpected announcement jolted her from her thoughts. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some turbulence. Please remain seated and fasten your seatbelts." The plane shook slightly, and Sarah's heart raced. Panic gripped her as she looked around at the other passengers, their faces reflecting a mixture of concern and calm. She squeezed the armrests, trying to steady herself. Memories of past flights flooded back, moments filled with fear and vulnerability. But this time felt different. She had made a choice, a sacrifice that brought her closer to the things that truly mattered. Suddenly, a young flight attendant moved through the aisle, offering reassurance. "We'll be just fine, folks. This is perfectly normal," she called out, her cheerful demeanor lightening the atmosphere. Sarah took a deep breath, reminding herself of Keanu's words about courage. Just then, a familiar face appeared in the aisle, Tom, the veteran. He had boarded the same flight, and he looked just as relieved to see her. "I made it!" he exclaimed, his eyes shining. Thank you for your kindness. It meant everything to me. Of course, Sarah replied, her heart warming at the connection they had forged. How are you feeling? I'm nervous about seeing my daughter. It's been so long, and I just hope she's willing to talk, he confessed, a shadow crossing his face. Before Sarah could respond, a loud crack echoed through the cabin. The plane jolted violently, sending gasps through the passengers. The overhead compartments rattled, and a few items tumbled out. Sarah's stomach dropped, and her heart raced. Stay calm, the flight attendant urged, her voice steadying the room. We're encountering some turbulence, but we're well equipped to handle it. Tom turned to Sarah, his expression a mix of fear and determination. You know, moments like this remind us of what really matters. I'm scared, but I can't let that hold me back. Sarah nodded, feeling a sense of solidarity. You're right. It's about facing our fears and holding on to what we love. As the turbulence continued, Sarah felt the weight of her decision settle more deeply in her heart. She had chosen to help others, and now she was being tested. Would she have the courage to face whatever came next? Finally, the turbulence eased, and the plane leveled out. A wave of relief washed over the cabin, and Sarah took a moment to collect her thoughts. She glanced at Tom, who seemed to have regained his composure. Thank you for that, he said, a hint of gratitude in his eyes. Talking about it helped. Any time, Sarah replied, her own nerves still simmering just below the surface. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from Jake. Can't wait to see you, Mom. I'm so proud of you. It was a simple message, but it filled her heart with warmth and determination. Moments later, the captain's voice broke through the cabin, steady and reassuring. Ladies and gentlemen, we're approaching Seattle. We'll be landing shortly. Thank you for your patience. The announcement sent a thrill through Sarah. She was almost home. As the plane descended, she glanced at Tom, who appeared more composed, a slight smile tugging at his lips. Ready? She asked, her heart pounding with anticipation. I think so, he replied, determination lighting his eyes. Whatever happens, I'm going to give it my all. As the wheels touched down, a collective sigh of relief filled the cabin. Sarah's heart raced with excitement as she grabbed her bag, ready to embrace the next chapter of her life. This was it. She was going to see Jake. As they exited the plane, the vibrant energy of Seattle welcomed them. Sarah took a moment to breathe in the fresh air, her heart filled with hope. She turned to Tom, who was adjusting his jacket nervously. You've got this, she encouraged him. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate your support. I'll let you know how it goes, he replied, his voice steadying. Please do. We're in this together, she said, feeling the bond they had forged in the midst of chaos. As they parted ways in the terminal, Sarah's heart raced. She could already picture Jake's smile, his excitement as he saw her. Each step toward the baggage claim felt like a leap toward home, toward connection, toward love. But as she turned the corner, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from an unknown number. Hesitant but curious, she answered. Hello? Sarah? It's the school. There's been an emergency, and Jake. The voice trailed off, and Sarah's heart dropped. Is he okay? Panic rose within her, an overwhelming sense of dread flooding her senses. We need you to come to the school immediately. In that moment, everything shifted. The excitement of reunion vanished, replaced by a suffocating fear. Sarah's world spiraled as she fought to comprehend what was happening. She felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her, and the stakes had never been higher. Would she have the strength to face this new challenge? The emotional climax of her journey had arrived, and the future felt uncertain once more. Sarah's heart raced as she hurried through the bustling terminal, her mind swirling with panic. The joyous anticipation of seeing Jake was replaced with a chilling dread. The voice on the phone had been calm but firm. An emergency at school. What could it possibly mean? Stay calm, she whispered to herself, forcing her legs to move faster. You'll figure this out. As she rushed toward the exit, her thoughts raced. She couldn't shake the feeling that her earlier decision had led her to this moment. Had she done the right thing by giving up her seat? Would she have made it in time to prevent whatever was happening with Jake? The cool Seattle air hit her like a wave, invigorating yet grounding. She hailed a taxi, anxiety bubbling just beneath the surface. "To Maplewood Elementary, please," she instructed the driver, trying to keep her voice steady. The cab ride felt eternal, each second ticking away like a countdown. The city flew by in a blur of colors and sounds, but Sarah's focus remained singular: Jake. She had to get to him, to make sure he was okay. Arriving at the school, she jumped out and ran toward the entrance, her heart pounding in her chest. As she burst through the doors, the atmosphere inside was charged with anxiety. Parents were gathered, some pacing while others comforted each other. Sarah scanned the crowd, searching for a familiar face. "Excuse me," she called out to a teacher. "What happened? Where's my son?" The teacher looked up, her expression a mix of concern and reassurance. "We had a minor incident during recess. Jake is fine, but we need to keep everyone calm while we assess the situation." Sarah exhaled a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "Can I see him?" "Of course. He's in the nurse's office, just to make sure he's okay." Following the teacher through the hallways, Sarah felt a mix of relief and trepidation. As they approached the nurse's office, Sarah's heart raced again. Would Jake understand? Would he be scared? When she entered the room, her eyes landed on Jake, sitting on the examination table, his expression a mix of confusion and relief. "Mom!" he exclaimed, leaping off the table and running to her. Sarah enveloped him in a tight embrace, feeling the warmth and safety of her son flood over her. "I'm here, buddy. I'm so glad you're okay," she whispered, holding him close. Tears of relief streamed down her cheeks. The worry that had consumed her melted away in the comfort of his embrace. "What happened?" she asked, pulling back to look into his eyes. "A kid fell and got hurt," Jake explained, his voice a little shaky. "They just wanted to make sure everyone was safe." "I'm so proud of you for being brave," Sarah said, wiping his tears with her thumbs. "You're my hero." As they spoke, the weight of her earlier decision began to sink in. It had led her to this moment, one filled with connection and love, reinforcing the importance of family. She thought about Tom and Keanu, and how their brief encounters had shifted her perspective. In that chaotic terminal, she had discovered a sense of community, a reminder that we are never truly alone in our struggles. After a few minutes, the school principal entered the room, her demeanor calm yet serious. "Sarah, thank you for coming. I just wanted to assure you that Jake is perfectly fine. We've taken care of everything." "Thank you," Sarah replied, feeling a surge of gratitude for the staff's quick response. "I'm just relieved he's safe." As they spoke, Jake's small hand slipped into hers, grounding her in the moment. He looked up at her, his eyes brightening. "Did you see Keanu Reeves at the airport? He's so cool." Sarah chuckled, the weight of worry lifting further. "Yes, I did. He's a really nice guy. Did he help you?" Jake asked, his innocent curiosity sparking a warmth in her heart. "He did, in a way. But today was really about me helping others. Sometimes, when we take a step back, it allows us to see what's truly important." Jake pondered this for a moment, his young mind processing the words. "Like how you helped that mom at the airport?" "Exactly," she said, proud of her son's understanding. "Life is about making connections and being there for each other, even when things get tough." As they exited the nurse's office, Sarah felt a new sense of clarity. The chaos of the airport, the turbulence of the flight, and the emotional roller coaster of the day had all led her to this profound realization. Love and kindness are what truly guide us through life's challenges. Tom's voice echoed in her mind, urging her to embrace the present and face her fears. She had learned that by helping others, she not only supported them but also allowed herself to grow. After they left the school, Sarah and Jake walked hand in hand, sharing stories about their day, laughter breaking the tension that had once gripped her heart. With each step, Sarah felt lighter, the weight of the past lifting as they moved forward together. As they settled into their evening routine at home, Sarah reflected on the day's events. The challenges had tested her, but they also illuminated the beauty of connection and the importance of making choices driven by love. She realized that life was unpredictable, But in that unpredictability lay endless opportunities for growth and understanding. In her heart, she knew she would cherish this day, not just for the trials she faced, but for the lessons learned, the relationships formed, and the love that connected them all. Life, with all its ups and downs, was a journey worth embracing, and Sarah was ready to face whatever came next with open arms and an open heart. As the sun set over Seattle, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Sarah sat with Jake at the kitchen table, their homework spread out before them. The calmness of their home felt like a sanctuary after the chaos of the day. She watched Jake scribble down math problems, a soft smile gracing her lips. "Hey, bud," she said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Do you want to tell me about your day?" Jake paused, looking up with enthusiasm. "We learned about space. Did you know that Jupiter has the most moons?" "That's awesome. How many moons does it have?" Sarah encouraged, intrigued by her son's excitement. 67. Jake beamed, proud of his knowledge. "I want to be an astronaut when I grow up." "An astronaut? That sounds like a fantastic dream," she replied, her heart swelling with pride. "You'll go to outer space and discover new worlds." "Yeah, and I'll tell them all about Earth," he said, his eyes sparkling with wonder. As they continued to chat about space, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. The worries of the day melted away, replaced by the warmth of being present with her son. She had learned so much about the importance of connection, not just with others, but with herself and her dreams as well. After finishing their homework, they headed into the living room to relax. Jake grabbed the remote, and they settled in for a movie night. Just as they were about to start, Sarah's phone buzzed. It was a message from Tom. "Hey, Sarah. Just wanted to let you know I met with my daughter. It went really well. Thank you for your encouragement. Hope you and Jake are doing okay." A wave of happiness surged through Sarah as she read his message. She quickly replied, expressing her joy and how proud she was of him. His success felt like a victory for them both, a reminder of how their lives had intertwined, even for a brief moment. As the movie played, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed in such a short time. From the airport to the school, every experience had taught her valuable lessons about resilience, compassion, and the importance of being there for one another. Halfway through the movie, her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Keanu. "Just wanted to check in. Heard you made quite a brave choice at the airport. Hope you're enjoying your time with Jake." A smile crept onto Sarah's face. She quickly replied, thanking him for his support and mentioning how everything had turned out well. It was comforting to know that their encounter had left an impact, not only on her but on him as well. After the movie, as they snuggled on the couch, Jake yawned and rested his head on her shoulder. "Mom, can we do something fun tomorrow?" he asked sleepily. "Of course. What do you have in mind?" she replied, brushing his hair back gently. "How about we go to the Science Museum? I want to see the space exhibit," he said, excitement bubbling even in his drowsiness. "Great idea. We can learn more about the planets together," Sarah said, her heart filling with joy. The thought of exploring new worlds with her son made her feel alive and connected. As she tucked Jake into bed later that night, she couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. She reflected on the journey that had brought her here, the choices she had made, and the people she had met along the way. Each moment had shaped her, guiding her toward a new beginning, one filled with hope and love. As Sarah settled into bed, she thought about Tom and Keanu, wondering how their journeys would unfold. She felt grateful for the way their paths had crossed, for the lessons learned, and for the connections made in unexpected places. That night, as sleep began to take her, Sarah whispered a quiet affirmation to herself. "Life is full of surprises, and I will embrace them all." The words hung in the air, a promise to herself that she would approach each day with an open heart, ready to face whatever came next. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtains, gently waking Sarah. She stretched and glanced at the clock, excitement bubbling within her as she remembered their plans for the day. Jake's laughter echoed from the kitchen, where he was already up, enthusiastically recounting his dreams about space travel to the sound of sizzling bacon. "Good morning, astronaut," Sarah called as she entered the kitchen. "Morning, Mom. I can't wait to go to the museum." Jake replied, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. They shared breakfast, filled with light-hearted banter and laughter. Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. Every moment mattered, and she wanted to cherish them all. After breakfast, they bundled up and headed out into the crisp morning air, the world outside bright and vibrant. As they made their way to the Science Museum, Sarah felt a sense of anticipation building. The museum was a place of wonder, and she looked forward to exploring it together with Jake. When they arrived, the excitement was palpable. Children's voices filled the halls, and the aroma of popcorn wafted through the air. "Where do you want to go first?" Sarah asked, taking in the various exhibits. "The space section. I want to see the rockets," Jake exclaimed, tugging her hand eagerly. They rushed through the museum, stopping to marvel at dinosaurs, the human body, and even a giant model of the solar system. But Jake's heart was set on space, and they finally arrived at the space exhibit, which was filled with interactive displays, models of spacecraft, and information about astronauts. As they explored, Jake's curiosity knew no bounds. He pressed buttons to launch rockets and read about famous astronauts like Neil Armstrong and Sally Ride. Sarah watched him with pride, admiring his enthusiasm for learning. "Look, Mom, there's a spacesuit," Jake exclaimed, pointing to a display. "Can I be an astronaut if I wear one of those?" "Absolutely. Just remember, it takes hard work and dedication," she replied, feeling a sense of nostalgia for her own childhood dreams. After spending hours at the museum, they made their way to the gift shop, where Jake insisted on getting a small rocket toy to commemorate their adventure. As they exited, Jake's face lit up. "Can we do this every weekend?" "Of course. Learning together is the best kind of adventure," Sarah said, hugging him close. Later that day, as they returned home, Sarah reflected on how far they had come since that chaotic day at the airport. The experiences they shared had brought them closer, reaffirming the importance of family and connection. That evening, as they prepared dinner together, Sarah felt a deep sense of contentment. They laughed, danced around the kitchen, and shared stories about their favorite moments from the day. As they sat down to eat, Jake looked up at her, his expression serious for a moment. "Mom, do you think we'll meet Keanu again?" Sarah chuckled, appreciating his childlike curiosity. "You never know. Life is full of surprises." After dinner, they cuddled on the couch, reading books and sharing stories. Sarah felt grateful for the simple joys of life, the moments that filled her heart with love and gratitude. She knew that the journey ahead would be filled with new challenges, but she was ready to embrace them with an open heart. As the day came to a close, Sarah tucked Jake into bed, kissing him goodnight. "Remember, buddy, no matter what happens, we're in this together," she whispered. "I know, Mom. You're my hero," he replied, a sleepy smile spreading across his face. Lying in bed that night, Sarah reflected on the many connections she had forged. She thought about Tom's reunion with his daughter, Keanu's kind words, and the way they had all inspired each other to be better. Life was a tapestry of stories woven together by the threads of compassion, bravery, and love. In her heart, she felt ready for whatever lay ahead. Each day was a new opportunity to grow, to learn, and to connect. And as she closed her eyes, she whispered a silent promise to herself, to embrace the journey, to cherish the moments, and to always choose kindness. With that promise guiding her, Sarah drifted off to sleep, dreaming of the adventures yet to come, knowing that every twist and turn would only deepen the love she held for her family and the world around her. Life was beautiful, unpredictable, and she was ready to embrace it all.